Hello and welcome to today's video on developing self-compassion. So for those of you who watched my brain retraining fundamental principles video, you'll know that I consider self-compassion to be a foundational piece of brain retraining. And so let's start today with talking a little bit about what is self compassion. Self compassion is having those feelings of loving kindness, compassion, and acceptance towards ourselves. So if you think about somebody that you love or somebody that you care about, somebody outside of you that's special to you, that's in your life, or perhaps was in your life, and as you sense into them or you think about them, oftentimes it's quite easy for us to develop those feelings or feel into those feelings of care, right? That deep care, that wishing them well, that wanting the best for them, perhaps feelings of love. So it's taking all of those feelings and turning them inwards towards ourselves. And that's really what self compassion is all about. So, Kristen Neff is considered to be the guru of self compassion in the psychology world. She's the one who kind of founded or coined that phrase. Her website is self-compassion.org. And on her website, there's lots of free guided meditations. There's also guided exercises and written prompts that you can use to help you develop your self compassion. One of her tools that's really quick and easy that I love and that's really useful is called the self compassion break. So, the self compassion break starts with us placing a hand either on our heart center or upper chest, or holding ourselves like we're giving ourselves a little bit of a hug. And when we do that, that physical touch of ourselves starts just in that action, it starts to release oxytocin in our brain. And oxytocin is one of the very powerful happy feel good neurochemicals that is associated with bonding. And so we want to start with that gesture, that self-compassionate gesture towards ourselves. And then once we have that gesture, it starts with an acknowledgement of that we're having a difficult time or that we're struggling right now. So we're stepping into the curious observer, we're noticing that we're struggling, we're putting our hand on our heart or giving ourselves a little bit of a hug, and then we say the following four phrases. This is a difficult moment. Difficulties are a part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion that I need. So, the first step, this is a difficult moment, and you can use other wording if you would prefer, like this is a struggle or I'm struggling right now, is an acknowledgement of your inner experience in the moment, right? So, when we're acknowledging that that's what's happening, that's our inner experience, again, it takes us out of that experience and into the observer, the part of us that is noticing that we're struggling. So already by stepping into that observer part, we're creating a little bit of space and we have a little bit more choice over what we do from this place. So that's the first line. The second line, difficulties are a part of life, is really acknowledging that every human being struggles or has difficulties in some way. And the importance of acknowledging that is because quite often when we feel like we're struggling or having challenges, we feel somehow less than or separate from everyone else. We can even get into that thinking of, well, no one else is struggling like I am, or everybody else seems to have it together or are making progress, and I'm not. And when we see ourselves as separate, we start to withdraw. We start to separate ourselves or remove ourselves from the group. And with this statement of acknowledging that this is part of the human experience, we're taking out that level of shame that sometimes comes with the fact that I'm struggling and I feel like I'm not good enough to be a part of the group, or I'm not like everyone else, and reminding us that we are actually part of that larger group and that everybody has these experiences in some way, shape, or form. And so there's a bit of a connection can sometimes happen, a reconnection, less likely to stay in withdrawal or isolation or shame around the fact that we're struggling. So that's the second line. And then the third line, may I be kind to myself in this moment, is really acknowledging the importance of how we orient towards ourselves, right? And then the last line, may I give myself the compassion that I need. You can include other qualities in there that you think would be helpful in this moment, in addition to compassion. So it might be patience, it might be perseverance, it might be another quality that in this moment would be really useful for you to have. And so you can certainly include those in your statements that you're using. And so again, the whole process goes like this. We acknowledge that we're having a struggle, where we notice, we're in the curious observer, we notice that we're having a difficult moment. We place our hand on our heart or give ourselves a little bit of a hug, and we say, this is a difficult moment. Difficulties are a part of life. May I be kind to myself in this moment. May I give myself the compassion that I need. And then you just take a breath and just allow that to kind of sink in or wash over you. And at first, sometimes when people are doing this, at first you might not feel compassionate or kind to yourself, especially if you tend to be the type that has a pretty strong inner critic and you tend to beat yourself up more when you're struggling. This will feel a bit foreign and you may not feel emotionally connected to what you're doing here. But know that the more that you do it, the more likely you are going to bring online the genuine emotional state and neurochemistry to the point where you will start to feel it. So, my personal experience was, when I first started using this years ago, I didn't feel an ounce of self compassion towards myself when I started it, but I kept using the process several times a day on an ongoing basis, and not just when I was struggling, but other times, just to start to create a little bit more of that connection through the repetition, right? Using neuroplasticity to my advantage. And then there came a point where one day it was like someone flipped the light switch, and all of a sudden I could really feel that level of self compassion and loving kindness and acceptance towards myself. So that can happen, right? And some of you may have access to those feelings already, and this process will just turn up the volume on those feelings, right? And so this can really help us navigate our process of rewiring with a little bit more ease, a little bit more grace, a little bit more gentleness, and can make a big difference in our progression or our trajectory of recovery. So, hopefully, this was helpful to you, and I wish you every success in your retraining. Take care. Hope to see you soon.